I've grammar checked the script, removed obvious transcription errors, added a natural intro and outro, included a subscribe call to Stories in Quotes B, and kept the content as one continuous script without labels. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to Stories in Quotes B and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest videos on mindset, success, manifestation, and personal transformation. There is a reason the same people keep winning this way, and it is not talent. You have watched it happen in real time. Someone with fewer resources, less obvious experience, and no clear advantage you can point to. And somehow they keep arriving first, keep getting the opportunity, keep becoming the person you were working toward. Most people look at this and reach for the easiest explanation: luck, connections, timing, something external that you either have or you do not. Here's what I want to tell you, and I want you to hear it precisely, because what I'm about to say is the difference between spending another year working hard and arriving at the same place, or finally understanding why the results keep going to the same people. They are not winning because of what they are doing. They are winning because of where they are working from. There is a level of action that produces results, and there is a level below it. The level where most people spend all of their energy produces nothing but more effort. If you have been trying harder and arriving at the same place, I'm about to show you why. Not as philosophy, not as encouragement, as a mechanism. The precise operational reason why the inner game determines every outer result, and what you must do starting today to change the game you are playing. Stay with me. The story you have not been told about winning. Let me tell you something about winning that almost no one has thought to say. Winning is not about the move. It is not about the effort. And it is not, despite everything the modern world insists, about working harder than the person beside you. I know this because I have seen what sits underneath every winning life. I watched it in Neville before he became the teacher thousands came to hear. I watched it in the men and women who came to my door, as people who had tried every outer method available and still could not move past where they stood. They all made the same mistake. They were watching the board when they should have been watching what was behind their eyes. There was a philanthropist, successful far beyond what his circumstances had originally suggested was possible, who once told Neville a story. He said, "You want to know when I actually learned about winning? I was 14 years old, running a school track race. I had one more heat to run, and I had stiff competition in one other boy. I was going to beat him. I was completely determined. I did beat him. But while my eye was locked on my competitor, while I was watching the other runner, measuring myself against him, calculating every step in relation to him, a third boy, one that nobody had even considered a threat, won the race." He told Neville that he carried that lesson into everything that came after. When people asked how he had built what he built, he gave the same answer every time: "I have never made getting money my goal. My goal is the wise, productive use of money. That is what I think about. That's what I talk about inwardly all day long." Same race, same track, completely different inner conversation. That is the difference. That's what I'm going to show you today. Because the man struggling to get money is running one inner conversation. His eye is locked on the competitor, on the gap, on the lack, on the distance between where he is and where he wants to be. Every inner word he speaks confirms that distance. The man who built the philanthropist's life was running an entirely different conversation, not a hopeful one, not an optimistic one, a settled one. The inward conversation of a man for whom having it was already assumed and whose inner question was simply what to do with what he had. You cannot run both conversations simultaneously, and you cannot produce the winning result while running the wrong one. When Neville told me what he wanted from life, I did not ask what he was doing to get it. I asked what his inner conversation was telling him right now. Because everything that appears in a man's outer life, every result that arrives or refuses to arrive, every door that opens or stays closed is the outward form of an inward pattern. Neville recorded the teaching precisely. Thinking follows the tracks laid down in one's own inner conversations. These tracks are the real score sheet of your life, not your actions, the conversation running underneath your actions while you take them. Think about what this means. Two people pursue the same result. One of them, all day long, is inwardly running a conversation from the premise of already having it, planning its use, speaking as though it is already the case, moving from the inner posture of someone for whom the thing is already done. The other is working just as hard, putting in exactly the same hours, but their inner conversation is running from a completely different premise. How do I get this? When will this change? Why has it not arrived yet? What am I doing wrong? That is the conversation. That is the track the energy flows over all day long, reinforced with every attempt. Same effort, same desire, different tracks. And the result must follow the track. Most people hear this and think, I understand. I will visualize, I will affirm, I will try to feel good about it for 20 minutes in the morning. And then they look at their circumstances, the bank account, the relationship, the opportunity that has not materialized, and they slip right back into reacting to what they see. The old inner conversation picks up exactly where it left off. And because the outer world is confirming it with every glance, the track deepens. This is not a failure of effort. It is a failure of inner position. Here is a test you can run right now. Think about the thing you most want to change in your life, and then listen, not to what you intend to think about it, but to what you actually say to yourself inwardly throughout the course of a day. Are you speaking as someone who has it or as someone who is trying to get it? The man in the track story did not think about his competitor. He thought about the wise use of what he already inwardly possessed. His inner conversation ran on having. His outer life had no choice but to produce the evidence of that conversation. Two people approach the same opportunity. One speaks inwardly from the premise that the opportunity belongs to them, confirming it, planning it, expecting it. The other approaches from the premise of hoping it will work out, through watching for signs, bracing for disappointment, measuring every development against the fear that it will not come. Same opportunity. Completely different inner tracks. Only one of them can win from that position. And here is where most people lose. They see this. They understand it. They genuinely intend to change the record. And then the outer world does not immediately confirm the new conversation, and the old one returns like a reflex. By the time they try again, the pattern has already been reinforced once more. The track is deeper in the wrong direction. The winners you are watching are not more gifted. They are simply running a different inner conversation with greater faithfulness. They changed the record before the outer world confirmed it, and they did not go back. Before I go further, there's something we have prepared that is directly relevant to what I just described. The hardest moment in any winning process is not the beginning. It is the moment after you have changed your inner conversation and then slipped. Something pulls you back. A number on a screen. Someone's offhand comment. A morning when the outer world refuses to match what you have been assuming. And just like that, the old record is playing again. We have prepared a guide called the Manifesting Anchor. It is built around a single two-word inner phrase drawn directly from these teachings, a phrase that returns you to the winning inner conversation in any moment, without effort, without rebuilding everything from the beginning. Not an affirmation, not a visualization, something quieter and more precise. A single internal reminder that what you planted in the winning state has not been erased by what you are currently observing. Comment the word anchor below this video right now. We have prepared this guide and we will send it directly to you. Comment anchor now and then keep watching, because what I am about to show you is the piece that most people who study these teachings never fully apply. Now I want to show you why effort by itself cannot produce winning, and why position is everything. Neville once described watching a young jockey being interviewed after winning a major race. His name was Angel Cordero. When the interviewer asked about his riding ability, his skill, his technique, everything he had trained for, Cordero gave an answer that stopped Neville entirely. He said, "The ability to ride has nothing to do with winning. It is all in feeling lucky. I could ride the best horse there is, but if I do not feel lucky, he will not come in first." Think about what this man was describing. Two jockeys, equally matched horses, the same track, the same race, the same physical conditions. One of them is riding from the inner state of a winner, already occupying inwardly the position of someone for whom the race is already decided. The other is riding from the opposite position. No matter how skilled his hands are on the reins, the outer move, the riding, does not decide the race. The inner position decides the race, and the outer move simply expresses that. This is not lucky thinking. It is mechanism. The inner state is the cause. The outer result is the effect. You cannot produce a winning outer result from a losing inner position any more than you can produce a healthy harvest from seeds that were never planted. Look at what this means in practice. Two people build toward the same goal. One of them is working from the inner position of someone who has already arrived, whose inner conversation runs on the premise that the result is not coming, but is already present, already real, simply not yet visible in the outer world. Every action they take comes from that position. Every decision is made by someone who already has what they are building toward. The other works just as hard and produces similar visible effort, but every action is made from the position of someone still trying to get there, someone watching the gap, someone measuring every step against the distance still to go. Same work, different inner starting point, and the inner starting point determines everything. What you see, what you pursue, what finds you, what you recognize as opportunity, and what you walk past. Neville wrote it plainly. Success is gained not by imitating the outer actions of the successful, but by right inner actions and inner talking, not the moves, the position behind the moves. Two people go after the same position at work. One approaches it from the inward posture of someone who already belongs there, who is already inwardly in the role, speaking as that person, thinking as that person, making the decisions that person would make before a single outer confirmation has arrived. The other approaches it as a candidate, hoping, performing, bracing, watching who gets the role. It is never the one who simply worked harder on the outer application. It is always the one whose inner position was already occupying the state. Change the inner position first. The outer moves will find themselves. Now I have to tell you about the phase that ends most people's winning before it has fully begun, because everything I have described so far sounds clear. Change the inner conversation. Occupy the winning position. Work from the right inner state, and the outer results follow. And then you try it, and the outer results do not immediately arrive. The bank account sends a notification that contradicts everything you have been assuming. The opportunity does not materialize, the confirmation does not come, and now you are holding an inner conversation that says the thing is already done, while an outer world is loudly saying otherwise. This is the phase. This is where everything is decided, not the grand beginning, not the inspired first moment of change. This phase right here, in the gap between the inner assumption and the outer confirmation. Neville himself described doing this with something as concrete as rent. He committed in imagination to paying a specific amount for his apartment, an amount lower than what the landlord was charging. Month after month, he paid the higher figure while holding the inner assumption of the lower one. The outer world did not confirm his assumption. Not in the first month, not in the second. The landlord gave no indication. The circumstances did not shift. He did not return to the old conversation. He held. At the start of the third month, the landlord retroactively reduced the rent to exactly the figure Neville had been assuming all along and applied the reduction back to the day he had moved in. 3 months, not 3 days. 3 months of the outer world offering no confirmation whatsoever, and the inner assumption held without wavering. And here is what most people will read past. In those 3 months, because the landlord believed Neville was paying more, he gave him things he would never have received otherwise. He chose the wallpaper. He chose the paint. The landlord built him a bookcase that covered an entire wall. All of it because the inner position Neville was holding shaped the entire relationship in ways that the outer strategy never could have produced. The winning did not begin when the rent changed. It began the moment the inner position was taken and held. I have written on this directly. Some are discouraged because they cannot change conditions at once. They forget that they have sown and harvested wrong thinking for years. They expect to plant new seed today and find the field already transformed tomorrow, forgetting that the same field has been deeply sown with the opposite pattern for a very long time. The true overcomer recognizes that the very law he is now using for good is the same law he has been using to produce the wrong result. He does not argue with the gap. He does not measure the time. He understands what is happening. And he continues. This is the word I choose deliberately. Continue. Not force, not strain, not performance. Continue. The person who changes their inner conversation and then slips back to the old one when the evidence contradicts them is not failing at the law. The law is operating perfectly. It is faithfully producing the result of the conversation they return to. The one who wins is the one who holds the new conversation past the point where most people go back. And when they slip, not if, but when, because the outer world will press in, they do not rebuild everything from scratch. They return. They remember that what they planted has not been erased by what they are currently seeing. They remind themselves that the assumption is still intact, and they continue. This is precisely why we built what we built. The moment I just described, the moment after you've entered the winning state and then slipped, is the most important moment in the entire process. It is the moment that separates the ones who eventually win from the ones who eventually conclude it does not work. Not because the law fails, because they could not return. We have prepared a guide called the Manifesting Anchor. It is built around a two-word inner phrase, not a mantra you build emotional momentum around, not an affirmation you repeat until it feels true, something quieter, something that does not try to reconstruct the feeling from the beginning, but simply reminds your awareness that what you planted is still true, that the winning assumption you established has not been undone by a three-dimensional contradiction. Most teachings give you how to enter the state. This guide gives you how to return to it in the exact moment when you most need it, without force, without starting over. Comment the word anchor below this video. We have prepared this guide, and we will send it directly to you. Now, let me tell you what actually changes when you learn to do all of this. It is not only that your results improve, it is that you stop being in competition with the people you thought you were competing with. Most of the people around you, the ones with similar resources, similar ability, and similar ambition, are working at the level of outer moves. They are studying technique, improving strategy, optimizing action. These are not useless things, but they are all being done from the wrong inner position. Their energy is flowing over tracks that contradict their goals, and no amount of outer optimization can overcome the direction of the inner conversation. When you change the inner position, you are no longer in their game. You are playing on a different board entirely. Pattern recognition shifts because you are no longer looking at your circumstances through the lens of someone trying to get somewhere. You are looking through the lens of someone who is already there inwardly and simply recognizing what confirms it. You begin to see openings others cannot see, not because you are more talented, but because your inner position has changed what you are capable of noticing. Position determines the outcome before the move is made, because every action you take comes from the inward posture of someone who already has the result. And that posture shapes the action in ways that no amount of outer strategy can replicate. Faithfulness compounds because every day you hold the inner conversation past the point where the outer world contradicts it. You are not losing ground, you are deepening the track. And the deeper that track, the more powerfully every circumstance moves toward it, often in ways you could not have predicted or planned. And the slipping, the inevitable moments when the old conversation returns become shorter, not because the outer world becomes easier, but because you know how to return. You are not rebuilding, you are remembering. This is what I taught Neville. Not positive thinking, not motivated effort, not a system for trying harder in the right direction, a precise understanding of how the inner conversation becomes the outer life, and the instruction to occupy the winning inner conversation with the faithfulness of someone who understands it as law, not as possibility, not as a technique to test, but as the actual mechanism by which results are produced in this world. The same people keep winning. Now you know why, and now you know that you can become one of them, not because of talent, not because of timing, not because the race was designed to go your way, but because you have changed where you are working from. Now, if what I have shown you today is the mechanism behind winning, there's one more thing you need to understand: the dimension in which this mechanism actually operates. There is a layer of existence above the three-dimensional world you have been trying to change, where your desired result is not coming. It is already there, already present, already real. That video is called How the Fourth Dimension Affects Your Manifestation Every Day. It is showing up on your screen right now. Watch it next. And before you go, if this message resonated with you, subscribe to Stories and Quotes Be, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, the conversation you repeat within yourself today becomes the reality you experience tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.